Pacific time this afternoon. And there we go. We have visual on 4 healthy mains.
That view was from inside. That view was from inside one of the buckets where the parachutes are located. So we see a great view there of the reefing on those parachutes, and as those main parachutes begin to inflate fully, 4 beautiful, healthy mains. Now awaiting visuals of splashdown. We'll start to hear Commander Nick Hague.
Copy 1000.
As we heard right there, Commander Nick Hague will be calling out the altitude of the Dragon capsule from here on out. Landing in water is simpler and provides more margin against unlikely parachute issues. You can see those parachutes continuing to slow the Dragon capsule down.
And if you're just joining us, you're looking at 800 meters, a live view of Crew 9, just minutes away from splashing down off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida. Splash down 2 minutes from now at 2:57 p.m. We do have 4 healthy mains really doing the job there. Just breathtaking views of a calm, glass-like ocean off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida. Crew 9 just minutes away from splashing down.
This is really such an incredible shot. That was
600.
That was a live view from our recovery vessel, Megan, which is a couple miles away from the splashdown site. We can see the crew there using their restraints as resting places for their arms. They were just in space moments ago, so their arms were able to float freely.
400 meters.
This is a gorgeous bluebird day here that we have for the splashdown of Crew 9. It's incredible to think that the Dragon capsule just minutes ago was going over 17,000 miles per hour, and now gently coasting to a soft splashdown.
200. Copy, 200 meters. Brace for splashdown.
As you can see there on your screen, continuing to monitor progress of the Dragon spacecraft. And we're going to stand by for splashdown located in the Gulf of America off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida.
And splashdown. Crew 9 back on Earth.
Good main release.
Copy, splashdown. We see main chutes cut. Nick, Alex, Butch, Sunny, on behalf of SpaceX, welcome home.
It is an amazing, from whatever I see, a capsule full of friends ear to ear.
All right, so the connection is a little bit shaky when it comes to hearing from inside the capsule, but they are saying that absolutely everything seems A-OK. Those astronauts have made it back in one piece. They have landed now off the coast of Florida. I mean, just absolutely amazing sight, isn't it? I think we're just going to go back to Avi Loeb, who's a leading Harvard astrophysicist. What we're looking at here, Avi?
Well, it's remarkable that they were brought back safely, and it's not just Sunny Williams and Butch Wilmore that were stranded, but also the NASA astronaut Nick Hague and the Russian cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov. So altogether success, and it's just like bringing soldiers from the battlefield back home safely. That is really an amazing feat, and everyone should celebrate that.
And just think it's absolutely astonishing when you see that iconic footage of the moon landing and you see some of the earlier forays that we had into space. Given some of the clarity with which we've been able to watch this entire mission is absolutely remarkable. But what happens now, Ari? I mean, they're presumably sitting in the capsule. We heard a little snippet from them. They said everything's fine, so hopefully it remains that way. But goodness gracious me, you'd be incredibly nervous, wouldn't you? You just plummeted back to Earth from space. You're in the middle of a huge body of water. You're hoping everything holds up okay. How long before they're out of there?
Well, they would access the capsule and take them out of there. I think they're very safe right now. And of course, medical examinations will tell us whether over the past 9 months they suffered any bodily harms. Otherwise, the next question is what will happen with the Starliner, given the malfunctions and technological issues. Boeing is in trouble. They will have to demonstrate that they can do better. And of course, what we want is to bring people safely, not just to a space station, but also to the moon and eventually Mars.
Yeah, indeed, you mentioned Mars. I mean, of course, Elon Musk is taking credit, rightly so, I suppose, for bringing these people back with his space technology. I'm going to be speaking to Elon Musk's dad in the next few minutes' time. His big ambition, as he stated, is to go to Mars. In fact, Trump said we were going to go to Mars. When you look at things like this, how likely do you think that is, and when?
He's very ambitious. He wants within a couple of years to demonstrate we can reach Mars and bring Starship there, and then after that it's a matter of K or so, and humans will start going there. And there are a number of hurdles, but I think it's a very important vision because Earth, could be quite risky for the future of humanity.
Yeah.
There could be a single point catastrophe, and we want another place that humans will be in.
We need potentially another home to go to. Sorry to cut across you, Harvey, but with the footage that we're seeing on the screen now is absolutely remarkable. So for our radio listeners, there are boats speeding towards this capsule, which is currently in the water, and they are approaching it now. We're about to see these doors open, I think, are we, Harvey? Is this
Yes.
a particularly risky moment, is it? Looks it.
Not very risky right now. Everyone is floating on the water, and there shouldn't be any issues. And they would just open the door and take them out. I mean, that is, whatever remains is just very safe right now.
Look, well, that's good. That's a relief. I tell you what, honestly, I can't believe that we're able to see all of this. I'm just like a kid at Christmas here, being able to look at this capsule in the water and having it come out. And so what happens? Do their bodies have to adjust when they come out? Are they going to get on that boat? What happens now?
Yeah, they will get on the boat, and of course, there will be some adjustment for them. By the way, the reason it looks like a very unusual event is because a lot of years have passed since the Apollo missions. Such as this technology of bringing people back to Earth in a splashdown was demonstrated many times before.
Harvey, can I just say a massive thank you to you. I absolutely love your stuff. I'm an avid viewer and listener to everything that you do on YouTube and all the interviews that you do and the work that you do. So it's a real pleasure and an honour actually to be able to talk to you on my show. So thank you. Good luck with everything. It's Harvey Lowe, leading Harvard Business. I am going to dip to the commentary now over this because I believe we might be able to hear from these astronauts. I hope so anyway. Let's just see what they can say.
Gorbanov inside. Dragon has autonomously completed several steps to safe itself following splashdown. We are continuing to see Dragon in what is known as stable 1 configuration. That's kind of the ideal configuration following splashdown. It's upright. The Dragon capsule is in the right configuration for it to be hoisted into the recovery vessel Megan, which you do see a little ways off in your screen approaching. Dragon will continue to remain live on air with you through that recovery process, all the way through the point where the crew is extracted from the Dragon spacecraft. Now, if you are just joining us, the mission has gone smoothly so far. Dragon successfully splashed down off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida at 2:57 p.m. Pacific, 5:57 p.m. Eastern Time this afternoon.
Approximately 17 hours prior to splashdown, Dragon autonomously undocked from International Space Station, completed a series of departure burns, jettisoned its trunk section and performed its final burn, the deorbit burn. This placed the Dragon spacecraft on a trajectory toward Tallahassee, Florida. Dragon successfully re-entered the Earth's atmosphere, followed by deployment of its parachutes to slow the spacecraft down to a gentle splashdown. We're now going to follow the
Freedom hyperball sweeps and unfired ordnance checks are nominal. Rigging is in progress. Approximately 25 minutes until capsule lift. Stand by for PMC with SpaceX flight surgeon.
And so what we did just hear there was communications that those hypergol checks were complete. They didn't find any of that.
Okay, I'm just going to bring in Andrew Lound now, who's a space and planetary scientist. We're going to stick on these images again. I'll just emphasise for our many radio listeners, this capsule is in the water. Bo is making contact with it, quite literally, and we think we might be able to see these astronauts very, very shortly. But a man who knows much more about this than me is Andrew Lound. Andrew, thank you very much for joining us this evening. We're going to stay on these images, Andrew, because it's electric stuff, this. But what are we actually really looking at here, and how long is it going to be before we see these astronauts?
Hi, thanks for having me on. Yeah, this is great. What you're seeing here is part of the recovery team. Their job is to go out with their fast boats and to secure the vehicle, ready for the vehicle to be loaded on board the recovery ship. And when they do that, the astronauts within the capsule is put onto the recovery ship, and then they're taken out of the capsule while they're on the recovery ship. Very different from the early days of Apollo, when, as people might remember in Apollo, the door would open and you'd have these Navy SEAL divers on the outside, dragging them out. It's a very different system here. It's a much safer and more controlled system. They detach the parachutes to make sure they're clear of the site so there's no tangles up going on. They check the outside of the vehicle to ensure that there's no volatiles causing a problem, anything that's emitting gases or anything like that. So they make sure it's a safe environment, because you have your material from the thrusters, and that can be actually quite dangerous. So they're making sure it's all very secure and very safe.
Yeah, they are indeed. I'm just thinking what a cool job that is, by the way, to strap your wetsuit on and be deposited onto the side of a space capsule in the middle of the ocean like that, and having to try and make initial contact with the astronauts and rig it up. So it looked to me a little bit on those images we were looking at before that they were almost lassoing it. So then they
Yes.
drag that somewhere, do they?
Well, they hold it and secure it for the recovery ship is coming towards them. All these little fast boats have come from the main recovery ship, and that's on its way to it. So they secure it, make sure it's secured, safe, and is ready for the recovery ship, so that it can be loaded into the recovery ship and ready then to have the astronauts carefully leave the spacecraft, because obviously they check with them to make sure they're safe to recover. They've been in, as I said, 9 months in space, means they have to be careful as they recover, because suddenly they feel gravity, and they'll be feeling gravity now, albeit bobbing in the water. So suddenly they find themselves in a very different environment to what they've been used to for the last 9 months.
What will they be feeling? I mean, they've been through 9 months of zero gravity. They've then had re-entry, extreme G-force, and now they're bobbing around in the ocean, experiencing gravity again for the first time. Presumably that has a huge toll on the body.
It does, and that's why they have to make sure they're everything okay, because the body now has to readapt to it. The heart is working strong, it works a lot less. It's less stress on the heart once you're in a zero-G environment. There's less stress on bones and muscles, so you have to really work those to make sure that you stay fit. But on Earth, again, of course, it's back to normal. So they have to make sure the body adjusts gently and carefully to the environment. In Russia, for instance, in the old Soviet Union days, when cosmonauts were brought back, they put them into soft couches when they left the spacecraft. So they gave them a much more gentle time getting back to it. I've seen that done on a couple of occasions here as well, in the United States. So whether they do that this time or not, I don't know. Well, the pictures now are showing you the recovery, I can see pictures of the recovery vessel coming in, the live feed, and that's where the spacecraft will be loaded onto, and then for the crews to be taken out.
Yeah, indeed. Just absolutely astonishing images here. We're getting it from every single angle. And look, this is all very well and good. I mean, it's amazing for people like me, and I imagine most of our TV and online viewers, to see things that we might never have seen before. But it's easy to forget that presumably, Andy, this is a bit of an embarrassment for NASA, the fact that they had people stuck up there for 9 months, and then Elon Musk and SpaceX had to come to the rescue. I mean, has this whole thing actually been a bit of a nightmare for NASA?
No, it's been overplayed by elements of the media. They're not stranded. They were never stranded in space. They could have been brought back at any time if because SpaceX could easily have sent another vehicle up if NASA wanted to do it. What their decision was, I mean, the biggest embarrassment is not so much NASA, it's Boeing, because the Starliner spacecraft, which these two astronauts, or two of these astronauts were testing, of course, had some malfunctions and issues with it, but that's the whole point of testing, and had to be brought back without the two pilots, so they had to stay on the International Space Station. And then NASA had to make a decision, well, what do we do? Do we pay for another mission to go up and simply bring them back? Or do we just rejig the system? They decided to rejig the system. Those two trained astronauts then became part of SpaceX Crew 9, which had two astronauts launched through it. Those two have come back today as well. So they just simply became part of a new mission and continue the work there. So that's all that really happened. They rejigged the scheduling of flights and missions. That's all they really had to do. So it's not stranded is really very misleading and in an Apollo 13 situation where you did have astronauts trouble, they weren't in any trouble. They just got rescheduled to do more work than they were anticipating to do. But they'll be Wilmore and Williams were the first people to turn around and say they were very happy with that situation because that's what they're trained for and that's what they do for a living.
Well, it's a good job they get on, isn't it? Otherwise, that would have been an awkward 9
That's a good point. You see, you make a big point, an important point there, and the crews are trained to make sure they all get on with each other, and they have a mix of personalities and they have a mix of skills. And they're actually using a system that was developed by Ernest Shackleton when he went to Antarctica. And I think it's quite interesting. One of the things Ernest Shackleton always asked for people when they were going on his expedition to Antarctica is, what do you bring party? Can you play musical instruments? Can you sing? Can you act? In order to bring and gel a team together. NASA play that game very, very carefully so teams can work together. And you have a situation like this where two astronauts have to stay on the space station far longer than was anticipated. Instead of 8 days, it was 9 months. But because the training, and particularly the way they gel teams together, they were able to fit in quite easily.
What kind of food they've been eating, Andrew, when they're up there? I mean, you can't get a McDonald's delivered. There's no Uber Eats up there, is there?
No, not really. No, the food packs are quite good and very nutritious. And they're actually carefully balanced diets, which they have, which is always a good thing. So the chances are once you're back down here on Earth, you'll actually be pig out a little bit. When you go into space, sorry, pizzas are off and things like that, although sometimes they do have a special type of pizza. But diet is carefully balanced, so they will lose weight naturally. There's been controversy over this at some point. People probably don't quite understand how crews actually work. They do lose weight because you get down to your normal, healthy weight while you're working in space, partly due to the excessive exercise that you actually do to make sure everything's in place, partly because, of course, you wanted to have correct food. So the balance is correct there. They do have treats for special occasions, but only rarely. So they sort of have a diet that we probably should use down here on Earth and we'd all be much more healthier.
The space diet, possibly better than Ozempic. I can see hyper-rich people in future, instead of going on the Atkins or something, just jettisoning themselves up into the atmosphere for a little while. But you know who I always think of in these situations, Andrew? I always think of the families of these people. Now, I don't know the personal circumstances of Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams, who were up there, but for a lot of astronauts, you know, they have wives or husbands, they have children. It's an incredibly risky business, let's be honest with you. And those families must have been, even though they know they're, you know, quote unquote safe on the International Space Station, can you imagine watching your relatives, excuse me, coming back down to Earth like that?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that really probably was the big issue over the 9 month stay rather than the 8 day stay, was the effect on the families. Because remember, it was over Christmas, and so all the Christmas plans went out of the window when these two astronauts had to stay in space. They couldn't join their families for Christmas, albeit they could do a Zoom link or something equivalent to that. That is the issue, and of course families still get worried about it. I mean, I think anyone who watches the film Apollo 13 brings that out exceptionally well. You see the wives really stressing out. The Right Stuff is another good film to watch, where again you see the issues where the families are suffering badly because of the nature of the game. And even though it was riskier during Apollo days, it's still a risky business here. I mean, we've already seen where the spacecraft they were testing at, Starliner, there were issues with it, and the reason why they stayed there is because NASA wouldn't take the risk of bringing
Okay.
2 astronauts back in case something was wrong. So yes, it's the families because there's nothing they can do, whereas at least the 2 astronauts, they're busy, they've got work to do, they crack on.
Yeah, 100%. And now, Andrew, please stay where you are. We're going to check back in now with the live commentary from NASA, just to see what they're saying, just to see where they're up to with that. Let's have a listen.
Just ensuring every detail has been placed for Crew 9's return.
That is such great news. I'm so glad to be able to experience it in person. Now, can you tell us a little bit about what's next to retrieve the crew for the recovery personnel on board?
Yeah, Kate, so coming up next, Dragon will be hoisted into the on-deck translation system, or the nest, at the aft end of the ship, and then will be translated pretty quickly towards that egress platform. We'll perform another series of safety checks as final precautionary measures, just to make sure there are no hypergolic vapors present before opening that side hatch. And then once that side hatch of the spacecraft is open, the crew will be assisted out of the capsule one by one from NASA and SpaceX. Freedom, SpaceX, contract. Thanks, Nick. I got you loud and clear as well. We have completed our forward link transition.
Just bring Andy back in here now. We're going to keep checking it on the ground. Andrew, sorry, can you just interpret maybe for our viewers and listeners what we were actually hearing there? What's all that mean?
Yes, the hypergolics. This is the thruster fuel which is used to control the spacecraft itself.